Rona, let's talk about your adult kids and some financial considerations connected to them. You know, the usual life cycle is your kids go off to university, they get a job, they start the rest of their lives, but we're starting to hear about the boomerang generation, kids who are coming back home out of economic necessity. How often are you seeing that?
Well, a little bit more now than in the past.
And why is that?
It has to do, I think, with a little bit about the economy. There is more job loss in the last few years than there has been in the preceding 10. And there is also, I think, an interesting thing happening with expectations. Because what I find is that kids tend to come back to the home when there is an expectation on the children's part that their parents will, quote unquote, bail them out or help them. Okay. And a pattern in that the parents are eager to have the children come back.
Now, in terms of the financial considerations here, what do you recommend parents do in terms of helping out a child who's had to come home out of economic necessity? How much help financially do you provide? Well,
at the very base of it, the most valuable thing you can provide is room and board, because that's one of the major costs of living out there.
Okay.
You know, food and shelter, and emotional support to help them get back on their feet sooner and be independent, because that's really what they want. For the most part, they don't want to be, you know, coming back to the house.
People don't boomerang by choice.
Typically not. No.
Now, do you suggest parents charge their kids room and board?
Again, that's all about expectations. I think it's a good idea if the child has the means to do so, and in that case, it's a way of forming disciplines, because when the child goes back out again, they are going to have to pay for those things.
Right.
And some parents will actually just put that money into a side account and actually kind of give that money back to the child once they're back on their feet. And so it's a way of getting them used to the cost of living.
Okay, now very quickly in close, I want to ask you about one last thing. Help you give to your adult children as money you would probably otherwise be putting into your RRSP, because that's a key time for retirement savings. I just wondered if you could address very quickly the need to not be extravagantly helpful to your kids, because you need that money.
Well, you don't know how much of that money you need unless you do some planning.
Okay.
So my recommendation is to update your retirement savings plan and to look at a few scenarios. What if we use, you know, X $100 a month to support the child versus Y? What impact would that have on us?
Okay.
And that'll make it an informed decision.
All right, thanks, Rona.
You're welcome.